Have you ever been watching One Piece and felt an overwhelming urge to jump through the screen and give a certain character a piece of your mind? From cowards hiding behind power and insufferable spoiled brats to the most sadistic and cruel villains. In this vast world of pirates, there are names that, when merely spoken, make fans' blood boil. Let's dive into the Hall of Shame and count down the 10 most hated characters in One Piece. Kozuki Oden. The Wano Country arc has drawn criticism from many One Piece fans, largely because it lacked a truly awe-inspiring storyline or a character that left them feeling completely satisfied. The supporting cast in Wano seemed to serve two purposes: stalling for time and exhausting the audience. Kozuki Oden is a prime example of this. Oden was the former shogun of Wano. Despite possessing monstrous strength and a unique charisma, his character development became a source of major controversy. Some viewers even argue he is Oda's most failed character creation. Oda's initial intent was clearly to build him into a heroic figure. Before Oden's official debut, legends like Roger and Whitebeard held him in the highest regard. Oden himself demonstrated extraordinary combat prowess, leading fans to expect a wise and powerful samurai. However, when his past was revealed, many were left shocked and disappointed. Since his youth, Oden's behavior was wild and reckless. He was constantly fighting, frequenting pleasure districts, and even had a history of abducting women. But the most unforgivable act was the scene where he cooked Oden over the cremated remains of a friend. For many fans, this moment sent their impression of him plummeting, cementing him as a shameless and unfeeling scumbag. Furthermore, when Wano was being oppressed by Kaido and Orochi, Oden was faced with a choice: defeat Kaido or be defeated by him. Instead, he chose a third option: to humiliate himself by performing a naked dance for 5 long years. This act was widely seen as foolish, leaving many fans angry and confused. It's important to remember that Oden was more than strong enough to confront Kaido at the time. Yet, such a powerful figure chose not to resist tyranny, allowing himself to be easily deceived and toyed with by Kaido. Being a great fighter doesn't automatically make one a hero, and a hero is not a fool. A true hero possesses both courage and cunning, with a heart dedicated to the people. If Oda's goal was to shape Oden into a hero, it's clear that, in the eyes of many, he fell short. Saint Charlos. If you had to pick the single most detestable character in all of One Piece, the celestial dragon Saint Charlos would be a top contender for the #1 spot. He represents the absolute peak of the celestial dragon's arrogance, cruelty, and entitlement. His very existence has led many fans to believe he must be the product of inbreeding, utterly unworthy of being considered human. Charlos is physically grotesque, and his behavior is even worse. He casually rides on the backs of commoners, shoots a man needing medical attention simply for being in his way, and forcibly takes any woman he desires. He once ordered his attendants to prepare for his 13th wife, implying he had already taken at least 12 others, whose fates were often to be discarded once he grew bored. When one man bravely tried to protect his wife, Charlos shot him without a second thought. His reign of terror reached its climax at the Sabaody archipelago. When he attempted to enslave the mermaid Cammy and shot Hatchin, Luffy finally lost his patience and delivered a punch that completely rearranged his face. This moment is hailed by fans as one of the most satisfying scenes in the entire series. That single punch also sent Luffy's reputation soaring into the New World, earning him a new level of respect from figures like the Shichibukai Kuma and the Pirate Empress Boa Hancock, who were shocked that a rookie would dare to strike a celestial dragon. Spandam. Trailing closely behind Charlos, Spandam is another character who frequently ranks high on most hated lists. He is a coward through and through, possessing no real strength or ability of his own, relying entirely on his high-ranking father's connections to secure his position within the world government. He is so pathetic that even his own subordinate, Rob Lucci, holds him in utter contempt. Everything he does is designed to be infuriating, but his cruel and sadistic abuse of Nico Robin is what truly sealed his fate with the fans. During the Enies lobby incident, in his desperate attempt to achieve his goals, he relentlessly insulted Robin, even punching and kicking her mercilessly on the bridge of hesitation. This scene broke the hearts of countless fans, filling them with sympathy for Robin and a deep-seated hatred for Spandam. Kozuki Momonosuke. Despite being just a child for most of his appearance, Kozuki Momonosuke became a major thorn in the side for many fans, earning him the infamous nickname the Little Pervert within the community. At such a young age, instead of focusing on his studies, he was already displaying lecherous tendencies. The behavior that drew the most criticism was his repeated use of his childlike appearance to take advantage of Nami and Robin, groping them on multiple occasions. Each time he succeeded, he would flash a smug, detestable expression that infuriated countless fans, who branded him a deviant. Furthermore, Momonosuke's arrogant attitude during the early parts of his journey was a major source of irritation. Even though his clan had suffered a horrific tragedy, he showed no signs of maturity. If you argue that he was just an immature 8-year-old, he certainly knew how to manipulate others to his advantage. Yet, if you consider him mature, his actions were childish, incompetent, and impulsive. This selective maturity was incredibly grating. Thankfully, on Zoo, Luffy gave Momonosuke a sound beating, which provided a moment of catharsis for the audience. And although he later matured into a 28-year-old man, in the hearts of many, he will forever be that annoying, detestable kid. Kurozumi Orochi. Shogun Orochi of Wano is despised for his vile, shameless personality and his frustratingly persistent presence in the story. He is the definition of a scumbag. Cowardly, dishonorable, and treacherous. No negative adjective is an exaggeration when it comes to Orochi. He is an intensely frustrating character. During the climax of the Wano raid, his voice actor delivered such a brilliantly grating performance that his high-pitched, screeching voice gave audiences an overwhelming urge to reach through the screen and strangle him. Orochi's weakness only makes him more contemptible. He was nothing but a puppet for Kaido, and he couldn't even properly utilize his absurdly powerful mythical zone devil fruit. In a way, he and Momonosuke were a perfect match. Both were weak, yet insisted on posturing as if they were powerful. But the most infuriating thing about Orochi was the sheer number of his fake deaths. Just when fans would breathe a sigh of relief, thinking he was finally defeated, he would miraculously reappear. This repetitive plot device left audiences feeling exhausted and annoyed. Many fans believe his only purpose, besides padding the runtime, was to insult and waste the incredible potential of the Hebi no Mi, model Yamada no Orochi. Koby. This is the second character that Oda attempted to build into a hero, but arguably failed to stick the landing. The main reasons include his ridiculously fast power progression, a lack of in-depth character development, and a power-up trajectory that feels even more hacked than the protagonist, Luffy's. The signs of Oda's favoritism were just too obvious. When first introduced, Koby was a timid and weak chore boy. Yet in just over 2 short years, he became unnaturally powerful, skyrocketing from a lowly chore boy to a marine captain and even earning the title of hero, just like Garp. Garp earned that title through decades of battling legends like Rox D. Zebek and Goldie Roger. Compared to Garp, Koby's accomplishments are worlds apart. While Oda attributed his title to his bravery during the Rocky Port incident, it still feels like a huge leap to grant him the legendary moniker of hero. Garp is a fearless legend. Koby, whether in terms of image, combat ability, or spirit, is clearly not on the same level and doesn't warrant the comparison. Additionally, Koby's personality rubs many the wrong way. As a Marine, he is often soft when he needs to be firm and vice versa. His most infamous actions were deserting his post during the Summit War and later obstructing Fleet Admiral Akainu. From the Marines' perspective, Akainu was fulfilling his duty to eliminate pirates. While some argue Koby represented a realistic human reaction to the horrors of war, others question why he chose to block his superior instead of the pirates themselves. In a real-world military conflict, those two actions would have likely earned him a court-martial, not a promotion. The battle on Hachinosu only made things worse. While Garp's encouragement allowed him to unleash the honesty impact and shatter a Yonko commander's arm, the scene felt unearned. To top it all off, Garp sacrificed himself to save Koby. Upon waking, Koby's first thought wasn't to ask about Garp's fate or thank his comrades, but to declare his intention to stop Luffy from finding the One Piece and becoming the Pirate King. His reason? He couldn't let a pirate become the king of the world. This move was baffling and deeply off-putting. Logically and emotionally, the one person Koby shouldn't be trying to stop is Luffy. There are countless vicious pirates, not to mention the tyrannical celestial dragons, who are also after the One Piece, yet Koby is singularly focused on Luffy. The underlying reason is simple. Luffy considers Koby a friend and would never kill him. Any other power in the world would simply crush him like an ant for getting in their way. People ask, why doesn't Koby try to stop Blackbeard from finding the One Piece? The answer is blunt, because Blackbeard would actually kill him. Vander Decken. The villain Vander Decken from the Fishman Island arc is widely condemned for his dangerous and obsessive behavior. He became fixated on Princess Shirahoshi when she was only 6 years old, while he was 25. This disturbing pursuit lasted for a decade. He used his devil fruit ability, the Madomato no Mi, to constantly hurl objects at her as a twisted form of courtship, threatening that if she refused him, she didn't deserve to live. Although Shirahoshi flatly rejected him, Vander Decken shamelessly continued his harassment. As a result, to ensure her safety, Shirahoshi was forced to confine herself within the hardshell tower for 10 years. If not for Luffy's intervention, her life might have ended in tragedy. A character who embodies such a vile combination of traits, obsessive, manipulative, dangerous, and utterly shameless, made many viewers extremely uncomfortable. Fans universally agree that he was a complete waste of a very cool devil fruit power. Vinsmoke Judge. The king of the Germa 66, Vinsmoke Judge, is widely criticized and hated for his cruel and abusive treatment of his own children. He is a scumbag by nature. In his pursuit of military power and dominance, he used genetic engineering to strip his children of their emotions, turning them into unfeeling killing machines. His abuse of Sanji was particularly heinous. Because Sanji didn't develop according to his desired template, Judge imprisoned him and publicly declared him dead. Later, when Sanji escaped, Judge told him to never claim him as a father, inflicting a massive psychological scar on Sanji's childhood. Even more disgustingly, years later, Judge sought out the son he had disowned, Sanji, to force him into a political marriage with the Big Mom pirates. He was unwilling to sacrifice his other successful children, so he decided to throw Sanji into the lion's den, sacrificing him to secure an alliance. He views his children as nothing more than tools. Judge's treatment of Sanji has left many fans feeling heartbroken and furious, deeming him completely unworthy of the title of father. Sanji's siblings, with the exception of Reiju, were also bullies, making the entire Vinsmoke family a truly detestable collective. Hody Jones. As a villain, Hody Jones is an absolute disgrace to the title. While his initial impression was one of strength, his power came not from training or awakening, but entirely from a dependency on energy steroids. Without the drugs, his strength was considered to be less than half that of the Arlong pirates. Furthermore, Hody's motivation for hatred is shallow and baseless. He was never personally persecuted or discriminated against by humans. His hatred was simply a product of growing up in the violent environment of the Fishman district, where he was indoctrinated by the ideologies of Arlong and others, blindly inheriting the prejudices of previous generations. His hatred, unlike Arlong's, was completely hollow and artificial. It could be said that he is hatred personified. He not only despises humans, but also his own kind, making him a classic sociopath. While both Arlong and Hody were Fishman supremacists, Hody was a far worse character. Arlong, at the very least, genuinely cared for his crew and family. Hody, on the other hand, was indifferent to his subordinates, willing to sacrifice them without a second thought to achieve his goals. He even assassinated the peace-advocating Queen Otohime and framed a human to incite deeper hatred. He hated purely for the sake of hating, an act of extreme and selfish cruelty. Hody Jones is widely regarded as a failure of the Fishman Island arc. As a main villain, he was not strong, charismatic, or frightening. His goals were bland, and he is generally considered the worst main villain in the series. Charlotte Flampe. As the quintessential spoiled brat of the Big Mom pirates, Charlotte Flampe definitely deserves a spot on this list. Why do so many fans despise her? First, during the pivotal battle between Luffy and Katakuri, she interfered to help her brother win. She used a drugged needle to secretly attack Luffy, aiming to give Katakuri the upper hand. This dishonorable act enraged Katakuri, who deeply values a warrior's code. He even injured himself with his own trident to ensure the fight remained fair. Second, Flampe demonstrated a two-faced and superficial sense of family loyalty. While she desperately craved Katakuri's affection, the moment his true, unmasked face was revealed, a face that didn't fit the perfect image she had in her mind, she instantly began to mock him, treating him more cruelly than any outsider would. She even threatened to take pictures of his face and spread them around. This shallow, familial love, based on appearance rather than character, combined with her venomous words towards her own brother, proved that she was a truly terrible sister. So there you have it, some of the most prominent faces of detestability in One Piece. Their existence is perhaps a special spice that adds to the drama of the Straw Hat Crew's journey. Of course, any list is subjective. So, who do you think is the most hated character? Let me know your thoughts in the comments.